It is a multi-billion-dollar business. And Los Angeles, unfortunately, has a tragic distinction of being one of the nation's capitals of human trafficking. Now, what is human trafficking? Human trafficking is the illegal commercial exploitation by force, fear, fraud, or coercion of individuals for either sex purposes or labor purposes. And the reason we are here in this Figueroa corridor is especially to call attention to where it is located. It is located up and down the blocks of where we are standing right now. You will see in both the press release, we have hyperlinked videos showing that showing that what we are talking about the young girls or women who are engaged in this sex exploitation by pimps and human traffickers that is occurring right here. The photographs you have on either side of this podium are ones taken from this spot. Now, this used to be an activity, but the only time you could see it was at night, but not anymore. These photographs were taken during the day. And it's usually young girls and women that represent over 95% of the human trafficking, the sex slave population out there. They are some of the most vulnerable population in our society that have no defenses, that are getting recruited by these traffickers on the internet. They are runaways. They are people from the foster system, where they basically aged out of the foster system and ended up right here on these streets. This is completely unacceptable. This is disgraceful. And what you will hear is that there have been regional task forces that have worked incredibly hard to bring these human traffickers to justice. There's the Los Angeles South Bureau Human Trafficking Task Force. There's the Los Angeles County Regional Human Trafficking Task Force. We are joined here today by members of the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office, the Long Beach City Attorney's Office, Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, the Los Angeles Police Department. We are joined by members of the District Attorney of Los Angeles County's Office. We are joined as well by the Pomona Police Department Chief Michael Ellis, the Southgate Police Department Chief Darren Arakawa, and the Inglewood Police Department Chief Mark Fronterata. And we are joined as a unified front because I want to send a message to the human traffickers who are engaging in these despicable acts. The question is not if, but when you will be arrested, when you will be prosecuted, and when you will be sentenced. And when you are sentenced, we are going to seek the maximum punishment. Let me give you an idea what that looks like. Recently, we have brought a case against Darren Atkins. Darren Atkins engaged, as the charges have shown, in human trafficking, sex trafficking, right here on this Figueroa corridor, involving a minor, a young girl under the age of 18, and one just over the age of 18. Darren Atkins, as the charges establish, or will establish in court, and I want to make it very clear when we talk about charges. Charges are not evidence. Charges are not evidence. Everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty. But we will prove these people guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in court. And Darren Atkins will be looking, because of his background, at 70 years to life in prison if convicted on all charges. Fabian Gilbert was charged recently, again, with respect to a felony count of pandering and one count of felony possession of a firearm. He faces a special allegation of a felony offense while out on bail. He is looking at 8 years and 8 months as a maximum term in prison. Kevin Thomas has been charged recently for involvement with various types of human trafficking offenses. He is looking at a maximum sentence of 12 years in prison. And those are the ones we have recently gone ahead and charged with these crimes. But over the last 6 months, there have been a number of individuals that the human trafficking task forces have arrested, the DA's office has prosecuted, and actually received very long sentences. Let me give you a few examples. Tyrell Davenport, convicted on all charges, 2 counts of human sex trafficking, 1 count of human sex trafficking as a minor. And the reason that's important is that the state legislature recently passed legislation that said if you are involved with human trafficking of a minor, someone under 18, that is a serious and violent offense and constitutes a strike offense. So if you have 2 prior violent and serious crimes on your record, and this is your 3rd, you will then now be looking at a sentence up to life in prison. And let me give you an example, using Mr. Davenport's facts that were proven to a jury, of the type of situation that we are facing here on the Figueroa corridor. Mr. Davenport forced one of his victims to travel with him to different areas, held her against her will, threatened her with violence, used physical force to assault her and coerce her to work as his sex slave. He then branded her with a tattoo of his trafficking moniker, IBN. He put that IBN on her body. It stood for It's Better Now. It didn't stand for It's Better Now. It stand for Mr. Davenport engaged in one of the more despicable acts you can engage in our society with that victim. And because he had 2 prior strikes, Mr. Davenport was sentenced to 75 years to life. Martell Neal, again, another individual recently in the last 6 months who's been convicted on all charges involving human trafficking, pimping, kidnapping, sexual battery, and forcible rape. He was sentenced to 87 years to life. He was a serial sexual offender and a violent sex trafficker. He duped one minor individual into a sexual relationship, quickly morphed into her pimp, and sex trafficked her for several months. He repeatedly beat, strangled, violently sexually assaulted, threatened to kill this victim, and held her small child captive as a means of forcing her to continue working in the sex trade for his financial benefit. Right here on this Figueroa corridor. Is a multi-billion-dollar business, and Los Angeles, unfortunately, has a tragic distinction of being one of the nation's capitals of human trafficking. Now, what is human trafficking?